welcome back to Blissfully Bloom. I'm Victoria LeBlanc, your host, and this podcast was created to empower women to love themselves unconditionally, transform their mindsets, and discover their own inner bliss. So, in today's mini solo episode, I want to talk about the difference between treating yourself and self-care. I feel like society nowadays really shouts and screams at the top of the lungs, treat yourself, treat yourself, treat yourself. It can be really challenging to recognize the difference between the two when sometimes society tells us that they are the same. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the term before, treat yourself, but it can look like going to a spa day and getting a facial, spending your money on maybe different makeup items that you've been wanting, or maybe you treat yourself through going to a concert. We have a Red Rocks amphitheater and I've always wanted to go. I want to treat myself and go to a concert in the Red Rocks. Or you can treat yourself through, little Maggie Moo is coming to join me, as you can see. She's hopping away. You can also treat yourself through getting your nails done, going to get a pedicure or manicure. I mean, the list can go on for treating yourself. What treating yourself really looks like is going to spend your money, right, on things that make you feel blissful inside. But the one thing that is different between self-care and treating yourself, one difference is that most often when you treat yourself, this feeling only lasts for a short amount of time, right? You may feel, oh, so good and happy on the inside for a little while after getting a new set on your nails or after going and jamming at the concert, but then that feeling eventually goes away. Now, self-care can look like many different forms. You taking yourself and giving yourself the nourishment that you need, whether that be physical and you going and getting your exercise for the day, maybe going for a walk, or maybe doing some yoga, some movements and really moving your body. You also nourishing your body through food and making sure that you're having whole and nutritious and balanced meals. This can also look like social self-care and making sure that you're having those connections throughout the week and throughout the month, really feeling like you are spending time with the people in your life that you love, right? This self-care can also go into your mental health. So what messages you are allowing into your mind space, and also how you are making sure that in your mind, you don't feel like you are trapping your anxiety or your depression, right? How are you managing your emotions in a way that is self-regulating? You are in this emotional roller coaster every single day, and it just is really hard to manage. I forgot to mention with physical self-care, rest also includes that. You might feel like, oh, physical, that means I'm getting physical, right? Let's get physical, let's get physical. But actually, that includes your sleep time, the amount of rest that you are giving yourself. Emotional self-care. So this looks like stress management. How are you making sure that your nervous system isn't stimulated 24/7, right? How are you finding that balance whenever you do feel yourself in stressful situations? How do you manage that? Also giving yourself compassion, kindness, forgiveness. And with personal self-care, this is making sure that you have time to do the things that you love and not just skipping out on them because, oh, I have this to do and this to do and this to do. How are you making sure that you're actually spending your time doing the things that you love? And this also goes into honoring your true self and being authentic and honest with yourself and with other people, and making sure that you are being the fullest expression of yourself. And now we go into space. So self-care in terms of space. So making sure that you have a healthy living environment. Do you walk into your living room and there's just clothes piles all over the room? There is just dishes in the sink that always need to be done, and it just so whenever you walk into your space, you might feel even more stressed out because of how much there is to do. And trust me, I have totally been there. When my environment just looked like a tornado passed through it, and I'm just thinking, oh my Lanta, there is so much work to be done here. And it's crazy how your environment really shifts your mindset. Because most often, how we feel in our mind, if I feel like I'm running 1,000 miles a minute in my mind, most often my environment is going to look the same. So it kind of goes hand in hand. If I start to clean my environment, I literally feel like my thoughts are stilling and going and becoming more harmonized in a sense. Moving on to spiritual self-care, this is making sure that your soul is getting the care that it needs. So this can look like spending time in nature, practicing yoga, meditating in the mornings, or connecting to yourself, connecting to the oneness with the universe. And this can also look like creating a sacred space for yourself. This is actually going to be in one of my coaching offers. I help you create your own sacred space so that you can go to this space whenever you feel like you need to ground and center yourself. And then also journaling, getting your thoughts down on paper really helps gather all of the thoughts that you have in your mind that you may have, that it may feel too cluttered in there, and then getting them out on paper. So those were just a few forms of self-care that I've listed, and there could be many more than that. The key thing that I want to note here is that no money is really involved. Now, you could spend money, right, on your self-care if you want to. Maybe for social needs, if you and your friends are going out to a restaurant, or maybe you're going to watch a movie, or sometimes in terms of yoga, I actually just joined a yoga studio, so I invested $55 for 15 classes to join a fall yoga challenge this month. So I did invest some money in that, but it still falls into the line of self-care. Because each time I step on the mat and I leave the studio, I honestly feel like the impacts are going to be long lasting. And that goes into my next thing that I want to get into, is that when you choose yourself and when you choose self-care, your future self is going to thank you, because your future self is going to feel the impacts and the benefits from it 10 years down the line, months down the line, and for a lifetime. When you start to care for yourself, you truly feel that on the inside. It feels so nice to just take that time for yourself. Really give yourself that nourishment that you deserve from the inside out. For the ones that I've listed, you may be thinking, oh, well, I get my exercise daily, but I feel like I've been lacking in my social life a bit. I feel like I haven't spoken or texted a friend in gosh knows how long. You may rate yourself differently in these different types of self-care, and that's perfectly okay. The ones that you rate yourself, and I suggest maybe rating from 1 to 10, like 1 being, oh, I do not care for myself in this way at whatsoever, and then a 10 being, oh, this is the highest level of care I can ever possibly give myself for this type of self-care. And rate yourself in that scale and see where you lie. If you lie somewhere closer to the 1 side and your numbers are looking really low in some of these areas of self-care, maybe that's a sign for you to start putting your attention more on those areas. We hear the word balance all the time, but it's just so hard, right? Our lives are so complex. But I think if we just pause and reflect and ask our bodies what we need in that moment, as long as we are giving ourselves what we need in that moment, then it's okay, right? We don't have to necessarily be juggling all of these things and making sure everything is perfect on that scale, because it may not be. Some seasons you may need more social self-care. You may need more spiritual growth in a season of your life. It's going to change and it's going to fluctuate. Now that I have gotten through this episode, I don't want you to think that I am just pointing a finger at the treating yourself slogan and saying that, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, because it's nice to treat yourself every so often. It's nice to feel like you are giving yourself some luxury a bit. But when you fall into the trap that treating yourself equals self-care, I think that leads you to falling into the trap that self-care is this big investment, right? When in actuality, it can be completely free. You can care for yourself starting right here today after this episode and choose some self-care practices and tools, and you don't need any money. You have everything that you need within yourself. And I think it just takes that first decision. I promise you, if you have been listening and hearing some of these ideas and going, what the heck? I don't have time for any of those things. And I've been living my life this way and I don't really want to change anything. Try it out. Maybe try out one new self-care practice and tool and see how you feel. See how much of your energy changes throughout the day. See how different you show up. The more that you practice self-care, the more that you're going to fall in love with caring for yourself. I would love for y'all to practice self-care this week. How are you going to give yourself the nourishment that you deserve? Is it going to be through getting 8+ hours of sleep, or trying out a new breathwork practice, or joining a yoga studio? Or is it going to be hanging out with friends and going on a camping trip? I might be doing that this weekend, depending on if we have a bunny sitter. I hope, crossing my fingers. Or it might be just planning for your self-care week and researching different tools that you think are going to work for you. Different stress management tools, different tools for emotional regulation. Last one that I will throw out there. Are you going to try a new recipe? Maybe an Ayurvedic recipe, or plant-based or vegetarian or vegan. It could just be a new food group that you try, that you feel is going to be beneficial for your body. Because food is nourishment, my friends. It really is. I had a blueberry jam peanut butter sandwich today with blueberries and cheese. Ooh, I'm going to turn into Blueberry Girl and Willy Wonka, but that's fine. I'll accept it. I love blueberries. All right. Well, that is all for this episode today. I hope that it inspires you to really start on your self-care journey and start implementing new tools and practices in your life so that you can start feeling like the best version of yourself. If you haven't already, make sure to screenshot the episode if you loved what you heard and share it to your stories. And then tag me at blissfully.bloom, and I will also share your story on my Instagram and shout you out. And then after that, make sure to leave the podcast a review and rating so that the podcast can grow and reach more listeners. Well, I will see y'all on the next solo episode. Have an amazing weekend. Bye.